All right, it's our favorite time of the week again, time for Rising Qs, where we get to answer your questions. Let's take a look at the first one that we picked here. All right, Saagar, the government is going to have to play some role in reopening the job market that it shut down. Should we task the government with creating infrastructural job creation programs or new AmeriCorps-style national service possibilities for young people? What do you think?
Yeah, I like that idea a lot.
Great idea.
And this is something that I've been wanting to focus on, which is, look, the government is the one that put us out of work, which means that they owe us a wage and they owe people the security that they can have, especially if they're providing that same security to other sectors of our economy, like big business.
Yeah.
I mean, and look, they should have been all over this virus from the very beginning. It's a complete and total failure. The CDC, I mean, massive failure, whole of government, state, local, except with a few shining stars. That's generally been the story. So yes, if you're going to put people out of work, if you're going to mandate people stay home, if you're going to mandate businesses close, then you owe them. And if you don't make that up, it is a dramatic violation of the social contract that we've entered in with our government, and that's why we've been fighting here so hard.
Yeah, and why people should be outraged that that response has not occurred thus far and should be pushing for this. Is a great idea, and I like that you focus on young people in particular, because they will be. People are starting out in life right now and getting knocked down like this and are the least sort of attached in terms of a career in the direction of their lives. That will show up in what they can do for the entire, it will affect their trajectory for the entire rest of their lives. I liked the way that friend of the show, who you all might have watched here before, Irami Osei Frimpong, put it. Basically, we have all been enlisted in the creation of public safety, right? We are doing the job right now that the government wants us to do, which is to stay home and create public safety. It is a socialized public safety program. That means you also have to socialize the ability to live and feed your family and get back on your feet once this thing is all finished.
Yeah, exactly.
So, makes all the sense in the world to me.
Next question, number 2 from Gabe. Hi, Krystal. Hi, Saagar. What should a populist do differently in 2024 that we didn't do in 2020, especially if when Joe Biden loses to Trump in the same way that Hillary did? What do you think?
Well, I'm less certain that Joe Biden is definitely going to lose to Trump, because I think Trump keeps getting in his own way, as he loves to do. And he's not doing so great in the polls right now. And seniors are like running for the hills towards Joe Biden, as like weak of an alternative as that is. But if we're looking at a 2024 potential populist left candidate running, they have to do what Bernie was never willing to do, which is actually use your movement, to weaponize your movement and use it as real leverage for real power. Right. You can't start from the beginning saying, of course, we're all going to bend the knee. Of course, we're going to be with you. Of course, anyone could win. Anyone could defeat whoever the Republican is that you're up against, because that just means they know they can do whatever they want to you. And at the end of the day, you're still going to fall in line. It's ultimately an electability case. If you say, no, our people aren't with you, they aren't necessarily going to bend the knee, they aren't necessarily going to show up, and you can do it in a convincing way, then those who are just committed to, like, let's just win, have to deal with this very uncomfortable fact. And that's a hard thing to do, because you will be villainized. Like, you know, the MSNBCs of the world will absolutely hate you, but it's the only way to actually be serious about power.
Yeah, I know from a right perspective, I also, by the way, I'm not certain Trump is going to win re-election at all. The polls right now are not good. And if it continues down no China, no immigration, and a payroll tax cut deal, listening to Art Laffer, it's done, in my opinion. But there are 2 scenarios. And so from a right-leaning perspective, the greatest thing is going to have to be pushing back. This is, I'll say, if Biden does win. The way that what it would be is there's going to be an immediate return to like Tea Party politics. There's going to be an immediate return to government bad, everything Biden does is terrible, pure oppositional, rhetorical repeal and replace on everything that he possibly does. And there'll be no development of new ideas, and it'll be up to another person to break the shell of the GOP establishment again.
Yeah.
And if Trump wins, actually, this is always the issue with incumbent presidencies, is that they become moot the day they become reelected. They're no longer the leader of their own party. I mean, nominally, they are.
Right.
So the power struggle is going to be for the 2024 primary. And so in that view, it will be you'll have to vanquish the Chamber of Commerce, so much of the corporate elements within the Trump administration, in order to reclaim Trumpism in its own name and brand it for a new way in 2024.
So let me ask you, because this is actually something we haven't talked about that much. If Trump loses this time, And the Chamber of Commerce types, you know what they're going to say.
Of course.
This was,
We tried it failed.
It failed. That was a fluke because Hillary was a terrible candidate. They'll come up with their own version of like Russiagate of why it was a fluke that Trump won that one time. This has been vanquished. It's a dead political ideology. It's a dead end. You got to let us run the show from here on out. I mean, that seems like it could be very powerful because we've seen the way, even with Trump in the White House, how strong corporatists are still in this town.
Yeah, look, this is what people mistake. I have no illusions my side is winning or will win. I actually think we've lost. We had one shining moment. It was the 2016, the election day, and basically been kind of downhill or a medium thing ever since. Like, people are like, oh, you guys are so arrogant. And I'm like, no, I'm running scared. Like, I think that you guys are actually just as powerful. They're far more powerful than even they think they are. And so I understand that it will be the fight of your life. And there's no guarantee. Like I said, the odds are, in my view, that the Republican Party becomes much more like Paul Ryan in the year 2021 than it ever does Donald Trump because of stasis, the power of the chamber, you could see it, Biden becoming president, anti-lockdown, protests, Koch brothers money, Chamber of Commerce, tax cuts, all that stuff. It could all come right back. It just could all look like a weird flash in the pan. Yeah. I am not optimistic in any way, and I run scared, and it's much more of a fight than many people. There's a lot of people on the right who are very arrogant, who are populists, and they're saying, oh, these people, we vanquished them in 2016. No, you didn't. You didn't vanquish them.
Right.
Still in the White House. Actually, they outlasted you. Steve Bannon's hosting a podcast. He's not in the White House right now.
Who's doling out the money for the trillions for big business? So it's Mnuchin.
Have no illusions that this thing is over. I mean, if anything, I think that it's on the wane, even though this is a very populist moment, and that if you want to reclaim that, it's going to be the fight of our lives in 2021.
Yeah, well, and we see in the response, the corporatists won. I mean, we just have to admit that in the coronavirus response, any sort of populist element, this was overwhelmingly, and coming out of this crisis, we know what's going to happen. It's going to be merger after merger, big guys getting bigger, everybody else getting crushed because the corporatists still run this town, and that is just the sad reality. All right, we got one more cue. That one was really interesting. If you and Saagar got to pick any cabinet position, what would it be and why? I mean, I am looking at Mnuchin doling out all that money and all that position of power at the Treasury Department, so I'm going to go with Secretary of the Treasury.
I'm very torn. My heart is in Treasury, but my head is at the Pentagon. Because the thing is, first of all, I have a national security background. But second, look, the Pentagon is the biggest government agency. The easiest way to affect real change without having to deal with Congress or any of that stuff is in the Defense Department, literally in charge of the lives of millions of American women and men who fight on the front lines. That's how you can stop wars, stop hundreds of billions of dollars of default money that just gets spent in Afghanistan and elsewhere. So I think if the one way that you could say you could really help the country and really not have to deal with that many politics is if you run the defense.
Oh man, though,
the Pentagon.
You would be hated. Glutton for punishment. You're absolutely right, though. I mean, it's like to change the course of that ship in a different direction, like even just slightly to change course would be, unbelievably impactful here and around the world. Right. And you would be hated
if you deviate
by the entire military-industrial complex.
Just 5%, you start touching General Dynamics profits, things are going to get real
they're going to come
here.
for you. Yes. All right. Thank you, as always, for your questions. Really interesting ones this week. Appreciate you guys. Have a great day.